Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
Hello, welcome inside another edition. It is the Bmore Baseball Podcast. I'm Jerry Coleman. He's the former 14-year MLB veteran, the Orioles Hall of Famer. It's Mike Bordick. We're producing brand new content every day, whether it be on X, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. You can find us all at one location, one word, Bmore Sports Pod. That's Bmore Sports Pod. Go ahead and subscribe and follow. Episode 39, Bordy, we're going to be joined by Hall of Famer and Fox top analyst John Smoltz. We'll talk about the Orioles dealing away Grayson Rodriguez. And what about the Cy Young Award winners staying with their respective teams? We'll get to all that a little later. But let's bring in our featured guests. They're sponsored by Pappas Seafood. From crab cakes to seafood classics, they'll deliver straight to your door. 4 locations in the Baltimore area, plus nationwide shipping. Order today by going to pappascrabcakes.com. That's pappascrabcakes.com. John, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate the time. You've had some time to reflect, though, on what was one of the greatest World Series I think we've ever seen. I thought you participated in a pretty epic World Series in '91, but man, the Dodgers and the Blue Jays really had a showing for 7 games, and the ratings reflected that.
Yeah, they did. I don't think a lot of people gave Toronto much of a chance before it started. I thought they were the most complete team. I thought they were a better team, but the experienced Dodgers found a way to win it in the end. I thought the Toronto Blue Jays fell victim of what a lot of teams fall victim to the first time they're in the World Series. The little things that would never bother you in a regular season game got to them a little bit, got too conservative, got doubled off twice, obviously. And I just thought that the Blue Jays had the best approach to winning a World Series, and they were oh so close. I know it'll stick with them all off season like it stuck with me, all the 4 losses we've had in World Series. And you go back in the what ifs and could have beens, and I just say it all the time. I think people don't understand that tension and create that you're about to win the World Series moments creates kind of issues that you would never have in a regular season game.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was some intense stuff, man. Especially they were 2 outs away at the very end. I got to ask you just about you mentioned a couple base running mistakes, the intensity there at the postseason, but really all the way through. It's the teams that paid attention to that detail, the better base running, taking care of the baseball, taking the extra base that seemed to come out on top. And what did you think about that? Just the situational detail to the game.
Yeah, it started badly in that 6th game when they got doubled off at second base. He would never get doubled off in the regular season. He wouldn't be as anxious to score those runs knowing that they were going to tie the game. Yeah. And I think those things led to a little more conservative approach in Game 7 with the bases loaded. I get the secondary leads being short at first and second, but third is not a risk of getting doubled off. And they had him leading so short that it was inches from being the home plate being the determining factor. You can't slide in feet first. You got to go in head first or just run through it like it's a bag, because that's the hardest plate to slide into. Those are the kind of little details, again, that in the regular season you wouldn't think twice about. And it was literally inches, a fraction of an inch that cost them the World Series. And then give the Dodgers credit. They made the defensive plays they had to make when they were up against it. They hit a 1-out home run from a guy who never expected was even going to be a vital part of the World Series. So that's what defending champions are all about. You can point to a bounce here, a ball wedged in the wall there. You can point to all of that. But the reality is, second and third, nobody out in Game 6, you're supposed to score. You're going to score 90% of the time, get those 2 runs with a team that does not strike out. So it's crazy how it ended up. But the Toronto Blue Jays put on an incredible show against a heavily favored Dodgers. It wasn't David and Goliath, by the way. The payrolls were not that great of a disparity, but you would have sworn that that's what the scenario was before it started.
No doubt about it. Now, I want to ask you about Yamamoto. Does he change the way we think about pitching going forward? I mean, he went old school, going the distance, didn't want to come out of the game. Is that going to be the new norm, you think, or is that just an anomaly?
No chance. The guys running the game that know nothing about baseball and have everything about their knowledge and analytics, they have no clue. They see that as just a freakish thing that they're not even paying attention to. There are so many anti-scientific things. There's no science behind half the things that they're asking pitchers to do. And I got close to getting on a really big pedestal when they started talking about pitch counts, and Yamamoto came in and shattered all that thought. And he did what most pitchers in generations before would have done easily. And I think this narrative of way we are training and teaching baseball pitchers to pitch is absurd. But when you have people that don't know the game, but only know an input-output model, that's what you're going to get.
Well, preach, John.
Yeah, I love it. We talk about this stuff a lot, but as you're the frontline guy, man, that the world is listening to in the biggest games, in baseball throughout the year, and for you to come out and say that, I think is really important, because we worry about the health of our pitchers, what the max effort, like every time trying to increase that spin rate. Do you see that with these young guys? And is that probably the biggest reason, would you say, why the arms are just falling off right now?
Yeah, the players are not in control of their career. The hybrid guys that are veterans that are about to retire, they've maxed through that, and they've been able to pitch without their fastball. Today, if you lose 2 miles per hour, you know something's wrong, and they have no future for you. I just think that the game has to have an impact with rule changes to make a change in the philosophy of pitching, because this will never change. They don't care how many guys they get hurt. You remember when analytics came in the game, they were under 2 taglines. We're going to put players in the best positions to be successful. That's debatable. Maybe they win an argument here or there. And we're going to keep them healthier. Well, that's all false. And they don't talk about that anymore. So now they don't even care. They basically want to look at it as a shell game. Look over here when this stuff's going on, and we'll just keep shifting guys in and out and use 32 pitchers in a year to get through a season. Everybody who's played the game and every manager knows that's not the way you win. But they're going to convince their fan base that with a lower salary structure and more pitchers, we can compete against the big boys. And it's a temporary, again, it's a shell game. Look over here while we're doing this. So a rule change will come sooner or later, and that's the only way we're going to change the philosophy of pitching, because what people don't understand, the players are just chasing the reward system. This is the reward system they're given. I don't blame the players, but they have no clue that their career has been cut in half. And they're going to chase it because they're going to get paid for it. But then at the end of the day, this is a broke model for a guy who wants to have a 10-plus career as far as a pitcher goes.
Do you see any organizations kind of working their way back to a more common sense approach to keeping guys healthy? You're not putting arms in harm's way like they are today?
I think Kansas City might be one of those teams. Maybe San Francisco with Buster Posey. And I think maybe there are some teams that might zig when everyone's zagging. But the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I think that's when you don't know, when you can't help a pitcher get better, but you can define who he is analytically and statistically, you're not in position to help that guy get from a number 4 starter to a 3 or a 2. Ask anybody in the game that's pushing numbers and say, how do I get this guy to go from number 4 to number 3 or eventually be a number 1? They'll look at you like they've seen a ghost, because they've identified who he is, and that's what he's always going to be. And so when they tell you things like the scoreboard doesn't matter and all these decisions in a vacuum, they basically are just looking at a computer model. And so teams that win, they win with starting pitching. Now, the fluke last year for the Dodgers was they won with the bullpen. But guess what they did to the bullpen? They wore them out. Every one of them got hurt. What did they do? They went and got lockdown stud starters. For most of the years, those guys were hurt. They got healthy at the right time. They ran their starters out there, and that's how they won, because their offense wasn't great. So at the end of the day, the game has been played the same way for 108 years, 120 years. But all of a sudden, in the last 10 years, we figured out how to kind of get around what always worked.
No doubt about that. All right, closer to home here, the Orioles have just hired Craig Albernes to be their new manager. I don't know how familiar you are with this guy, young fellow who comes in and trying to reshape the Orioles organization. The Orioles are looking at the Blue Jays as a team that finished last the previous year and made it to the World Series. I don't know. Where do you think the Orioles, you got to see them in September against the Yankees. Where do they fit in the whole AL East in your mind?
Yeah, I thought they did the right thing with the moving back of they maybe moved it back too far, the fence, to help their pitching out, and their star power was all left-handed hitters in the lineup. I just feel like I don't think they can't restart, but they've got to figure out how to get some pitching healthy, because their marquee players that they banked on should be there for a while and producing. it basically comes down to if people don't figure out how to develop pitching, they're not going to win. You can't go buy it. I mean, only a couple teams can go by it. You've got to be able to develop pitching and teach them how to stay in the game and be able to get in and out of trouble. If you don't have that, you don't have sustainability and you have short windows.
The windows are really short, that's for sure, with all these pitchers. I don't think the Orioles have developed a pitcher. But speaking of pitching and the necessity, the Orioles just made a trade that I thought was pretty interesting to the Angels. Grayson Rodriguez, 4 years of control. Now, this guy's been hurt for the last couple of years, but he got Ward back. Hit over 30 home runs, over 100 RBIs. So the Orioles kind of filled the slot, I guess, getting a power hitting outfielder. But your thoughts on that trade and the Angels taking a chance on a young arm that's been hurt for the last 2 years?
Yeah, well, you guys know how much I love this kid. I think if somebody could get to him and be able to teach him a couple things mechanically that will keep him more sound, he's a stud. Physically, does a couple things that might enhance maybe not having the injury-free career that he was hoping to have. But I just don't think they get any better than him. So the Angels, they're in a whole nother boat. They haven't had pitching for a long time, so they're going to take some chances and make this maybe a priority for them. And then again, for the Orioles, I guess you got to find a way. You can't outscore everybody in the East. You got to be able to pitch a little bit, and maybe they've got a couple, secondary moves they're going to make that you don't see right now. But I think the Orioles can do what the Blue Jays did, no doubt. There's no doubt they can do it, but they're going to need help in that rotation.
What do you think now in terms of the way clubs are thinking, staring a lockout down the line? At this juncture, nobody's really talking about it a whole lot, but we all know it's in the background, John. How much of an impact is that in terms of signings and going on behind the scenes?
And I think it's huge. I think you're seeing a lot of one-year arbitration eligible type signings, or I should say offer that they're getting the 1 year, and that tells you what you need to know about what some of the players think may or may not happen. Strategically, from the standpoint of the teams, I think whoever gets out in front and maybe gets a little lucky in figuring out what the end is going to be either beating it and understanding, kind of like when some rule changes came in, some rosters were a little bit more athletic than others, and they got a little bit lucky in the fact that the rule changes helped their athleticism, stealing bases, so on and so forth. So I don't know where clubs are in their thinking, but I would think somebody's going to take some chances and bank on what they think might not be as bad as we all hope it's not in the negotiating gap that's between the owners and the players.
It's going to be a tough one, I think, for sure. And I think the Orioles have kind of led the way, and it seems like understanding what might happen. The Orioles' new ownership has already talked about, the cap, so that sparks some controversy, of course, around here. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. Baseball certainly doesn't need that. They want to stay as strong as possible. I want to go back in time a little bit, though, because I always admired you, John, as one of the greatest pitchers of all time, and the way you handled yourself, just a great pro. And we're honored that you came on our show. And I got to ask you just a little bit about your mental toughness, the ability to be a Hall of Fame starter and closer. How do you mentally overcome these challenges and be able to compete at such a high level in the highest leverage of situations? I get blown away watching the World Series, guys stepping up and just act seemingly unflappable. And you had that trait, man. How did that happen?
Well, I wasn't afraid to fail. You can't be afraid of the moment. And that's where most guys land their plane. They're afraid of what if, what could happen. I say every game 7 that I've been able to do as a broadcaster, somebody's going to have a moment they're going to remember it for, good and bad. And you got to be able to deal with the bad and deal, everyone wants the good, but you have to be able to not be afraid. I find it interesting when, again, going even to analytics, people think there's no such thing as clutch. And I have to laugh because they don't understand, again, putting on a uniform and playing 25 heartbeats don't all happen at the same time. There's different personalities, different genetics, and not everybody wants the ball or be at the plate. It's something you have to learn and want to do. Now, there is such a thing as wanting it so bad that you cause yourself to get out of what would typically be the game that is slower to the athlete is the one who's going to play better. The game that speeds up, the game that gets too fast, That's where you do things you're not capable of, and you sit back and go, how did I just do that? And I think for me as a kid, I always wanted to ball. I always wanted to take the shot in basketball. I'm learning how to take the shot in golf now because I never played golf when I was a kid, but I was not afraid of the moment. I used to tell my guys, give me the ball. And now learning on the job at the closers was a totally different beast. And there was a lot of failure staring me right in the face. And I was not going to let that define me, because when you come out of the pen, all you can do is fail. It's not a role where, you're given opportunities to only be, pitch from behind and then you get the win all the time. You're in a situation where all you can do is succeed. Otherwise, people are going to interview you. I think I had 9 interviews in 3 years as the closer, and those were the 9 games I blew in 3 years. So they never came to me after I closed a game and said, how did you feel? What did you think? They didn't come to me when I had 29 in a row or whatever it was. So it's all about that mindset that when you get to the biggest games, the biggest moments, the guy who can simplify it and slow it down, honestly, you can see those guys are separators. Michael Jordan was one of the greatest all-time clutch players, but I bet you he missed more game-winning shots than anybody in the history of the game. But do you think anybody remembers those? No, they remember the fact that he was willing to take all those game shots and hit a lot of winners. So I think that's the mindset that you got to have.
And that answer just leads me into my next question. I only have a few more remaining here with John Smoltz. Your golf game is legendary, despite what you say. A little birdie told me you're pretty darn good, despite 2 hip replacements, and that you get to play at that exclusive Michael Jordan club. I mean, what's that like to play with the GOAT?
Well, he just finds a way. He's going to intimidate you with a stare. He's going to intimidate you with mind games, and he just knows that at the end of the day, he's going to find a way. And him and Tiger are in a universe by themselves. I played with both, and there's something to be said for that. I mean, again, if you don't have any ability, it's hard to will something. But if you know you're athletic and you have the ability to figure it out, they're going to figure it out, and they're going to bully you. And I think that's the best part about being able to play with 2 of the greatest of all time. And I think golf is a great equalizer, because each sport has its own issues that you deal with. Golf is all about you. I mean, there's no teammate to bail you out. There's nothing. It's you and Mother Nature, and I love it.
Yeah, great stuff right there. Speaking of teams and great players, your Fox team, man, I got to believe when you guys were in your production meeting, hanging out with A-Rod, hanging out with Big Papi, Derek Jeter, I mean, the conversations must have been pretty intense. I mean, because you all had great success, World Series heroes, on and on. Did you guys have locker room talk when you were talking about your preparation?
No, actually, those are 2 separate entities. We don't really, we're not really with them. They have their own show and their own.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, we'll see them on the field, but for the most part, being able to do this now for the last 10 years for Fox has been a blast. I feel like the game it's slower in the booth, no doubt. There's not a situation I haven't been in. But at the same time, you got to understand the game's being played differently. Guys don't look at it the same way. And so the feel for the game is different. Even though I may call for something that should happen, that doesn't mean it's going to happen, because the information is trumping the feel. And you got to understand that as a broadcaster and kind of go with it and understand what this guy is trying to do and why. Because the viewer at home doesn't know what they don't know. And my job is to kind of bring them something behind the scenes that they would never know, couldn't look up, couldn't see, other than experientially passing that on.
Well, we look forward to hoping for more Fox games revolving around the Orioles, because that means the Orioles are doing well. It looks like you're on your way to the golf course right now, so hit them straight. And we really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. I've been on the road all day, and I couldn't get to my destination, so thanks for letting me do this from my car.
We appreciate you. Very grateful. Thank you, John.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, the great John Smoltz joining us here. That was fabulous, Bordy.
Oh, awesome.
More of the Bmore Baseball podcast coming right up. At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week, only at Relief Shop.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you, too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly, or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every Grand Slam. Sounds like a ball, if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
In a city where passion runs deep, on the stage and on the field, Baltimore knows how to bring the heat. Whether it's a game-winning home run or a breathtaking violin solo, this town plays to win. The Baltimore Chamber Orchestra champions the creative soul of our city with bold performances of classically captivating music. Join the team that brings precision, power, and heart to every performance. Learn more and get your season tickets now at thebco.org.
We move along to For the Birds, Bordy. It's brought to you, as always, by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. Playing the Maryland Lottery responsibly means knowing what's true and what's not about your favorite games. Learn the facts and myths by going to mdlottery.com. That's mdlottery.com. And as always, please play responsibly. Bordy, Orioles making a deal this week. They have sent Grayson Rodriguez out west to formerly the California Angels. That is an outdated reference, but the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, in exchange for power-hitting outfielder Taylor Ward. So it appears they've acquired the power-hitting outfielder they've been looking for. They didn't have to spend a lot of money on him, but they give away a pitcher with a great arm and a guy they drafted early on, but also a guy who's had a history of nothing but injuries.
Yeah, one of the more interesting trades, that's for sure. And the Orioles, I don't know, this situation's a head-scratcher considering all we talk about every day in baseball is the importance of pitching and the necessity for it. Every organization needs as much as possible. Grayson Rodriguez has been a top prospect in the Orioles organization for a number of years now, and he completely dominated the minor leagues just a few years ago. In the big leagues, though, it's been hard for him to stay healthy. And there are arguments about why that's happened. I think trying to change delivery just to ease some pressure maybe off elbows has led to shoulder and lat problems. And listen, he's had a long list of injuries. This is a huge risk, I think, for the Angels, but it's a smart risk because if for some reason they can get him healthy and on the mound, I mean, man, they control him for 4 more years. That's an organization's dream, especially with a young arm with a ceiling as high as Grayson Rodriguez. Will he ever be healthy enough to pitch? I'm not sure. If he does get healthy enough this year, I would stick him in the bullpen, manage his innings, and maybe you get him for next 3 or 4 years, 3 years at least. But I think bullpen is definitely the way to start him out. This is going to be interesting to follow. I think getting Ward is pretty smart by the Orioles too, because you get him for 1 year. He's a rental player. They don't have to worry about paying an extra salary come the lockout after 26 seasons. So an interesting trade for sure.
Yeah, Ward is coming off a career season in terms of home runs with 36, so his value was pretty high, 103 RBI. He's 31. The big question is, can he do it again?
Right. Well, that's the thing. Okay, so he's had back-to-back years where he's actually been on the field and been pretty productive. I mean, listen, if you slid him in the Orioles lineup right now, he is head and shoulders above everybody statistically. His home runs, he's almost double, what Gunnar had, and his RBI is up over 100. So the production is there. But listen, he's had a track record of injury too, and he's not any younger. Back-to-back really solid years. If he can come close to the numbers he put up last year, I think that would be huge for the Orioles. But that said, listen, this is the start of the offseason. Ward could be traded by the end. Who knows what is going to happen? I think we're all kind of responding to this initial trade. I think in some ways the Orioles may have known that Grayson might not ever be healthy again. And that would be unfortunate too. But their hope is that Ward fits in and they get some more production out of an offense that was very lackluster last year.
Yeah, a couple of things, because they trade away one of their bright pitching talents, although a guy who's been off injured. What do they do in terms of adding to the pitching staff? That was a big need in the offseason? Do they go out and spend the money on a free agent pitcher? And I'll also add the fact that the last time the Orioles made a deal with the Angels, it was Dylan Bundy going to Los Angeles. In return, in that trade, it's kind of been kept quiet, but that's how the Orioles acquired Kyle Bradish. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. There have been some sleepers in some of these trades that Elias has made, and Bradish is, he's a Cy Young candidate if he's healthy. I think for the next foreseeable future. Let's hope he can stay healthy for a few years and really emerge as this team's ace. The guy's a stud. He's got a great arm, great competitor, and will really anchor this rotation for sure. So, yeah, sometimes these trades do work out, and it's interesting that the Angels have become a trade partner here with Mike Elias. And, hopefully both teams, this works out. Listen, I think we all hope that Grayson Rodriguez can pitch again, because after what's happened the last couple of years, we have just been left scratching our head. Will we ever see this kid take the bump again? And the Orioles just didn't want to take a chance on that. And maybe that opens the door for somebody else. It definitely gives somebody else an opportunity to slide into the rotation, at least a more dependable arm. Listen, so many of these young players for the Orioles have been hurt, so oft hurt. And we got to find a way to keep them healthy. And Rodriguez was definitely on that list.
Well, we heard the owner, David Rubenstein, tell me they have quote unquote deep pockets. Well, they utilize those deep pockets to go out and spend on a big time free agent pitcher. There aren't a whole lot out there. Obviously, Framber Valdez, and we hear about other guys that may be tradable, but it isn't a long list of impressive guys like last season when I thought you could have had a Crochet or a Max Fried.
Yeah, you could definitely been aggressive. And listen, those players are still available. You just got to put some stuff up front. That's for sure. I don't know that the free agent market is as strong as it's been in the past. There are some pretty good names out there. And I think you mentioned Framber Valdez. I think he should be at the top of the list. The Orioles definitely would dominate, I think, the East if they had, Rogers and Valdez as lefties going at it in the rotation. I think that would be sensational. So, there are some other guys out there. Dylan Cease's name obviously gets mentioned a lot. I hope the Orioles are aggressive and to some degree maybe over-aggressive. Let's give a guy an extra year one time, please. And so what if it fails this time? Because in the American League East, you got to take some chances, man. You got to push the envelope a little bit. If you want to just stay at that mid, major and keep doing what you're going to do, it's just not going to happen for you. You might make it to the postseason, but you're not going to be able to get over the hump. We see what it takes to get to the postseason and in the World Series.
How about the Toronto Blue Jays as a prime example there?
Yeah, no doubt about it. These guys every year have been looking to spend money. They control all of Canada, that's for sure. The Rogers do. So they've been eager to spend. They've made offers on Ohtani, every big-name free agent. Listen, when their young guys came up, when it was Bichette and when it was Biggio and, of course, Guerrero Jr., they said, we are going to build around these guys, and they put forth the right effort, man. And that's what we've all been hoping for here in Birdland, for that same kind of aggressiveness to happen, but it just hasn't. And it's going to be hard to compete this offseason, though. Hey, we heard the owner say the money's there. I was a little surprised, and that's why I think this offseason is going to be interesting. And I don't obviously know that they're going to do a lot more. I thought they'd be aggressive in trying to bring Tucker in, and why not try to land a contract there? But I also think that the collective bargaining agreement is looming large, and I think the Orioles are going to be one of those teams that kind of don't want to overdo it here going into the 26th season.
No doubt about it. You got to be smart going forward, knowing that a lockout could be coming down the line. Meantime, the Orioles are rounding out their coaching staff. Craig Albernaz has kept a couple of holdovers in Buck Britton, and of course the pitching coach, Drew French. He'll remain in his same role. Not sure where Buck Britton is going to fit in. I thought he was going to be the third base coach. That's not official. They've also hired Donnie Ecker to be their new bench coach. He spent time with Albernaz in San Francisco, so there's a connection there. Miguel Cairo is the new bench coach. Joe Singley is the new Major League infield coordinator. It's a very young coaching staff in essence. There isn't a guy even close to 50 years of age, Bordy, which makes me and a younger you feel kind of elderly.
Well, Miguel Cairo, come on now. I think I might even played with that guy, and I think
he brings up the median. He brings up the median.
Yeah, he lends that experience so well. I think that the Orioles truly need, not just from bouncing ideas from coaches and coaches and coach, but to players, man. Some of these players are just so hungry for the knowledge and the experience that the guys have had. Cairo played 18 years in the major leagues. One of the most interesting players I've ever seen. I mean, he had a split grip with his bat, just to stay short to the ball, like Ty Cobb used to do. He was an incredible hitter. He must have hit over 300 in his whole career, and he could play everywhere in the field. So I think that was a great sign for the Orioles. As far as the young coaches, listen, they said that they were just kind of move things around a little bit. This is a complete rebuild. I mean, now the players have to get to know the coaching staff, how they work. When Brandon Hyde came in, there was continuity. All the coaches were together. So now all the young guys that have been brought up with Brandon Hyde and Manzolino and Sanders and the rest of the guys, they got a whole new, relationship to build, whole new verbiage coming in. I think the new coaching staff, though, it seems like, they've got some good energy, which young guys thrive on. They want that. And as long as they're knowledgeable about the game and are there for the players, then I don't think there's going to be a problem. But of course, I'm an old school guy thinking that, the more guys that have had experience in the game, coaching as well, I just think players tend to just play better. They learn more. They're more, I don't know, they just care about it a little bit more. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say right there. We may have to edit that last comment.
No, I don't think we do. I got some breaking news. I've noticed that we get older every year. And when that occurs and I see guys who are being hired in their 30s and 40s, I feel a whole lot older, but that's the way this game is moving towards the younger generation for some reason.
Yeah, no, there's a great turnover, and I think so many of these guys have the reason why they're getting opportunities in the major leagues is because whether it was the college program they were with, they learned driveline, they learned all the new, analytic terms, just ways to explain things differently. And that's the way things are at the major league level right now. And obviously through the minor leagues as well. So you want to have the common terminology. You don't want some old relic coming in there and, teach them the rusty gate. Don't let the paint dry, kind of play. But I still think there's something to learn on how to work properly, especially at the major league level. You're telling me that the 26-year-old hitting coach knows how to go through a major league season as a hitter? There's no way. I mean, 162 games, the things that get in young players' heads. So it's all a mental game. And that's something that I'm concerned with. And that's why I think Cairo can help so much on both sides of the ball, defense, offense, just how that experience lends itself so well to the younger players.
Yeah, it's always bizarre to me, no matter what the sport, the NFL, this happens too, but baseball now with the Orioles, when you have players that are older than their coaches or manager.
Yeah, right. So, and then you're going to get into that problem too, where the players might feel like they know more than the coaches are throwing out there. At least they've experienced more at the highest level, right? So, I guess the hope is that they continue to bring energy, they ignite these young guys. But, here we are talking about young guys, but really there are only a couple that are really young now and inexperienced. So that's Basayo and Beaver. Some of these guys have already been through the battles, been in the postseason, and had their slumps last year.
Yeah, but the nucleus, the Gunners, the Cowsers, the Rushmans, they're still younger than these coaches that are coming in. Last I checked, unless someone fudged a birth certificate and tried to participate in the Little League World Series or something. I don't know.
Right.
It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer. Or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone. Exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955. Proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles. For For years, we were told to say no, but Verano is rewriting that story with award-winning flower, vapes, edibles, concentrates, and topicals for every kind of vibe. Shop smart with Savvy. Treat yourself with Encore chocolates. Relax with an Avexia bath soak. Or keep it light with Bits gummies. Want something premium? Grab Essence pre-rolls or a Reserve Eighth. Verano makes premium cannabis for all. Find out for yourself. Head to one of our original sponsors, Relief Shop in Baltimore on Cathedral Avenue, and mention Bmore Verano for an exclusive deal. That's Bmore Verano. This ad and products are intended for legal consumers 21 and over. Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
All right, moving along. On to Baltimore and beyond. As always, it's brought to you by Relief Shop. Relief Shop, Baltimore's best adult use and medical cannabis dispensary with 700 plus unique menu items and home delivery available always for medical patients, courtesy of Relief Shop. They're right there in the heart of the city on Cathedral Street. So since we last held a podcast, the American League and National League Cy Young Award winners were declared. No surprise, Tarek Skubal from Detroit in the American League, Paul Skeens again in the National League, even though he won something like 10 games, his ERA was phenomenal. But what about the future of these two guys? I mean, it's very unknown. The fact of the matter is this might be a very sad commentary on the sport of baseball, where these mainstays, these Cy Young Award winners, may not be long-term fixtures with their respective organizations. The Pirates have Skeens under control until the end of this decade, but he wants big money at some point, you would think. And the same with Skubal. I don't see the Tigers having the financial, capability of trying to keep this guy. And inevitably, it seems like he's going to be wearing, whether it be Skeens or Skubal, a Dodger, a Mets, a Cubs, a Yankees uniform. God forbid.
Yeah. Blue Jays, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Let's not leave out the high market Blue Jays. With all that.
Isn't that the way it happens, right? Listen, these guys are incredible. They're great for the game. They're just amazing personalities at the top of their game year in and year out now. I mean, it's incredible. And these guys are true monsters. And they've been able to avoid injury, which I think is probably the most amazing thing. For as hard as a guy like Skeens throws, it seems inevitable that it'll happen, but he could be a freak that just keeps going out there and rolling it out. The Pirates would be crazy if they tried to move him right now. He's really their only attraction. And whenever you're talking about a great player in the game, if he's wearing a Pirates hat, oh my gosh, everybody wants to buy the hat, the jersey. And Skeens is that. He is the most liked right-handed pitcher in baseball. Every time he takes the bump, everybody pays attention. And he's just got that kind of stuff, man. The guy's a monster. He really is. And Skubal's the same way. And the Tigers fans would really be missing out if they didn't make as much of an effort as they could to lock him up. But my gosh, a guy like Skubal and Skeens, who knows what the heck they're going to be asking in a couple of years. If they can make it through the 26th season and find out where Major League Baseball is going to fall as far as their salary structure goes, is there going to be some sort of a modified cap? Either way, those guys will be at the top of the list as far as getting paid. They really have to, because their numbers, their awards, their award shelf is getting cluttered now with Cy Young awards year in and year out. That stuff just doesn't happen, man. These guys are head and shoulders above. But yeah, we don't want to see them in a Dodgers or Yankees uniform. I'd love to watch them. I'd love to watch Skeens be able to help lead the Pirates into the postseason and make a push, to the World Series. I mean, I think everybody would like to see that.
Yeah, they have to surround him with a little more talent. They have that in Detroit. But the fear, as you know, is what happened with the Angels, with Ohtani, where he just walks and they got nothing virtually in return.
No, that is the fear. But that's just the way the game is, unfortunately. And that's why maybe there does have to be an adjustment made, because we'd love to have it where, like back in the day. I mean, why do you know all the old Orioles? Because they stayed on the Orioles forever, and I don't know if the game will ever be like that again, but we can always hope. And I would, man, if I see any one of those guys in a Yankees uniform, can you root for them anymore? No freaking way. No way.
It's a non-segue in terms of rooting for them, and also a non-factor in terms of caring for them anymore. But I like these guys right now because they want to go out there, take the ball, and go 9 innings.
Yeah.
Steve doesn't get the run support. Scooble sometimes does, but these guys want to go the distance. That's what I respect.
They really do. They want the ball. They want to go to the distance, and they love their town, man. They love the fact that they're pitching for the Pirates and the Tigers, and you can tell. I mean, and their teammates love them too because of who they are and how they work. There's incredible value to those guys.
All right, let's bring in the doc for our What's Up, Doc segment. Dr. Michael Jacobs, former Orioles team physician for just 3 decades. So, Doc, hip replacement is a serious surgery. We talked about it earlier with John Smoltz. You've conducted a few in your time. How hard is it for a Major League Baseball player to undergo a hip replacement and try and come back and play? Has it ever occurred, frankly?
Well, glad to be with you guys, as we are. I've done about 10,000 hip and knee replacements, so I am knowledgeable. First, I have to define that there's been an avalanche of people getting hip arthroscopy or labral repairs. So you have to be careful. When you see people coming back from hip surgery, they're all getting hip scopes, which is an entirely different operation. So you have to be very clear. Hip replacement surgery actually comes in either replacing, which is the most common procedure, or a lesser known procedure is what's called resurfacing, where you just replace the top of the hip, which I was a champion of, and did about 1,000 of those. If you look around today, Andy Murray, the tennis pro, had both of his hips resurfaced, which is a technical differentiation from a total hip. And Patrick Kane of the used to be the Red Wings and the Rangers and the Blackhawks, he also had a resurfacing. So in terms of what's best for you, it's trendy today for super high demand people, marathon runners and people like that, to get resurfaced, which is still somewhat unusual for a baseball player. In terms of actual baseball players, certainly the most famous player is Bo Jackson, who developed avascular necrosis or dead bone in his hip when he dislocated it on a tackle and frankly was missed by his doctor. And he did in fact come back. Now it's my knowledge that he's actually had his hip revised several times, and he is certainly a huge man, as Mike can tell you. I remember Cal Ripken telling me once that you didn't have to see Bo Jackson come around the field. You could feel the ground shaking when he came around second. So he was huge. And hip replacement surgery was also done on a number of pitchers. We had a pitcher named, I think, Paul Shuey. We got at the end of his career from Cleveland, who was trying to come back from a hip replacement. And I resurfaced Larry McCall, one of our pitching coaches, who pitched into majors, and he went on to pitch batting practice. And I've replaced a number of coaches. But when you replace your hip, the range of motion comes back beautifully, and the hips are very stable. What you do lose is how long will the hip last if you're putting a 200-pound player running and twisting and jumping around. So when the facts are that if you're a DH or if you're a pitcher potentially, particularly a short inning pitcher, you probably will get back a range of motion and a degree of pain relief that might allow you to perform. We've had a minor league catcher in our system for years who has a terrible hip, but he was still able to get to like a AA level before he pretty much vanished. And I've reviewed a number of major league players who had awful hips and played first base or DH. We had Chris Hoyles, who eventually got his hip replaced. In his last couple years, I was injecting his hip a couple times a year to keep him going. But again, Chris wasn't a speed guy. But I think you theoretically could come back to pitch and or DH with the hip replacement, you would have to understand that that kind of pounding, and not just from the game, but from the off-season and in-season workups, may decrease the life expectancy of your hip replacement. But I would say that most players would only probably be getting this later in their careers. And if they could DH or pitch for another couple years, they potentially could do that.
All right.
Obviously, Andy Murray running around a tennis court for 4 hours. And while the long-term results of that are unknown, and there's other issues with metal ions, if you can run around like that, even if Andy's not as quick as he used to be, tennis is a far more demanding sport on your hips, I would say, than DHing or pitching. So it potentially could be done, and Bo did play. Bo did play at some level with a hip replacement.
Yes,
Well, he was certainly one of one, very unique, and that was a very hip answer. Thank you, Dr. Michael Jacobs. Appreciate that. Thanks to all our sponsors, especially the ones that have stuck with us since day one. We appreciate the loyalty and the support and dedication.
At Pappas Restaurants, we've been serving up Maryland's best crab cakes for over 5 decades, and now we make it easier than ever to get your favorites. With 4 restaurants and sports bar locations across Harford County, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County, you can stop in for fresh seafood, ice-cold drinks, and wall-to-wall TVs. But if you can't make it in, don't worry. We'll bring Pappas to you. Our new state-of-the-art shipping and commissary location on Bel Air Road in Nottingham means you can pick up fresh-made meals or have our famous crab cakes and seafood shipped anywhere in the country. Dine in, pick up, or ship nationwide. However you Pappas, we've got you covered. Order now at pappascrabcakes.com. For years, we were told to say no, but Verano is rewriting that story with award-winning flour, vapes, edibles, concentrates, and topicals for every kind of vibe. Shop smart with Savvy. Treat yourself with Encore chocolates. Relax with an Avexia bath soak. Or keep it light with Bits gummies. Want something premium? Grab Essence pre-rolls or a Reserve 8th. Verano makes premium cannabis for all. Find out for yourself. Head to one of our original sponsors, Relief Shop in Baltimore on Cathedral Avenue, and mention Bmore Verano for an exclusive deal. That's Bmore Verano. This ad and products are intended for legal consumers 21 and over.
I'm retired now, but I was an Orioles home run. Grand slam, actually. Took a sweet ride right into the flag court, and it was awesome. Could be awesome for you, too. If you play Home Run Riches from the Maryland Lottery, you could win instantly or be a contestant of the game and win $500 for being selected, $500 for every Orioles home run, and $5,000 for every Grand Slam. Sounds like a ball, if you ask me. Enter all season at mdlottery.com.
It's saving season at Lido Pizza. 99-cent refreshing iced teas for spring and summer. Or $6 calzones every Tuesday. There are tons of new deals and rewards for everyone. Exclusively at LidoPizza.com or on the Lido Pizza app. Lido Pizza, a local legend since 1955. Proud partner of the Baltimore Orioles.
In a city where passion runs deep, on the stage and on the field, Baltimore knows how to bring the heat. Whether it's a game-winning home run or a breathtaking violin solo, this town plays to win. The Baltimore Chamber Orchestra champions the creative soul of our city with bold performances of classically captivating music. Join the team that brings precision, power, and heart to every performance. Learn more and get your season tickets now at thebco.org.
Everyone knows Greenmount Station in Hampstead, but did you know that at Greenmount Station you can bet 7 days a week just like you're at the track? With in-person teller windows and state-of-the-art touchscreen kiosks. And with Greenmount Station's brand new Bet Park Sportsbook, you can bet on all other sports as well, wherever you are in Maryland. Spreads, money lines, live bets, props, parlays, and teasers. The Bet Parks Maryland mobile app is now live for Apple and Android devices, so you'll never miss your next big score. Just search for Bet Parks MD in the Apple App Store or on Google Play. 21 and over only. Please play responsibly. For help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Shop Maryland's largest adult use and medical cannabis menu located at 1114 Cathedral Street in Baltimore, with medical delivery available throughout Maryland 7 days a week. Only at Relief Shop. Effective Solutions, your one-stop shop for commercial contracting. Everything from excavation and site development to emergency remediation and restoration. Effective Solutions specializes in many forms of commercial and mixed-use construction. With a dedicated staff and a commitment to quality, Effective Solutions delivers every time.
We just have one more episode episode to go, believe it or not, folks. So until next week, be kind, be real, and make sure to be back for the conclusion of this season 3 of the Bmore Baseball Podcast.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.